Hello friends, I'm David Vos. I hope you're having a great day. I'm having a wonderful day. I got up this morning and the sun is shining and it's a beautiful day. And I'll probably go take a walk later on. But it's pretty early. I got up early and I wanted to make this video because I had a couple of people, after making the video I made yesterday, I had a couple of people say they're anxious to see the video that I was telling you I was going to do about time, how there is no time and space. This is very, very important. And I still haven't done the 7th video in the series, but I'm going to get to that. But I want to do this one, because people are probably tired of that series right now. We'll get back to it. Because that series is important, that we finish talking about the Bible and all of these characters and what God is and stuff. That's very important to our understanding of everything. But maybe we need to think about what God is scientifically and in reality, and who we are in reality as from a scientific point of view. Now, I've said that basically one of the biggest reasons that the Bible was written in these parables, a lot of us say, why in the world the prophets, the divine being, our Father in heaven, is he just trying to keep us in the dark? Why couldn't he just tell us? Give us the answers. We need to know. It seems like he's just deceiving us, writing a bunch of parables, and for thousands of years we don't know what's going on, and he's left us down here to fend for ourselves, and these governments are taking advantage of us. What's going on? Well, when you understand scientifically who you are, I think it'll be a little bit more easier to understand why all of this information wasn't given to mankind thousands of years ago. I mean, it was. People can't understand it. And it takes deep understanding to even explain it to someone else. I mean, you can't just say, well, let me explain this to you if you don't understand it. And nobody had this revelation for thousands of years. The revelation was very, very, very rare. I mean, it takes a lot of information in your head. Today we have Google, we got schools, we can learn math, and we're learning concepts that are crazy, crazy, amazing concepts. And we're putting things together like, I found early on in life that the only way that you can really ever know anything is to write it down. You can say all kinds of profound things to yourself, and the next day forget about it. It never really becomes part of yourself. You always stay linked to the society and to the present program. You never really get out of your mental programming unless you start writing it down in a journal, or in my case, I put these thoughts down in these videos, and then you can go back and look at the videos. Once you put it down, you've got it into words somewhere. Then you can grow in understanding. This is why math can't be done without writing it down. Some people are so brilliant they can do simple math or even algebra in their head, but to do hard calculus and stuff like that, higher physics must be written down, because the mind can't expand. Our conscious mind can't. Our subconscious mind probably could. We might know the answer and not even know how we know it, because our subconscious mind is aware of a lot more than we're aware of. And that's kind of what we want to get into today. But anyway, understanding the universe is what it means to know the divine being. Understanding how there could be something out there that's invisible, the spiritual. The Bible just says the word spirit. And to this day, we're very confused, even I think more now than people were in those days, because I think the Bible in those days was more or less a scientific book in some ways, more than it is now, because now we've got words like spirit, and that's a spiritual word, even though the original word just meant some invisible force or power. And there's no spiritual meaning. Today we have the word God, and we think it's a bearded man in the sky, but in those days, there was a time when this word divine had a meaning, and it meant light. In the New Testament, it says that God is light. So it was much more of a scientific book than it is today, because it's not translated correctly It's almost as if, you're drawing something and it's accurate, but it's more of a cartoonish drawing. If you want to get somebody that's great at art, you get somebody that can paint realistic paintings. You can't tell the difference between a painting and a picture taken with a photograph, because these people are so detailed, they can get it all, make it look real. Now, that doesn't mean that the cartoon doesn't depict the reality. It's just not quite as clear. So the Bible then had to be written in a more of a cartoonish thing. We do cartoons for children because they can't understand these long dramas, We watch hour-long movies, and you've got to keep track of who's doing what and where. It's like a mystery, and we want to figure out who did it, who murdered who in the movie. It's very, very complex. You've got to keep track of different things that people say throughout the movie, give you clues. And adults can do that, but children cannot do that. So the Bible was written then for children. We were just children at the time, a couple of thousand years ago. We didn't have the ability to understand quantum physics at that time. And now, in this generation, there are people that are beginning to understand this concept, the higher concepts. And we can literally now explain the universe in a scientific way. And as we do that, many of us are beginning to realize, oh, that's what this cartoon, this little mythology, these scriptures and all these parables, that's what they were talking about. That's why they were saying that God is light. See, now we're into science and we're finding out. Well, some years ago we said the physical universe, it was made up of atoms, and each atom had neutrons and protons and electrons, and depending on how many electrons went around, the nucleus and so forth, we'd make different elements and different atomic structure. But, so we still thought it was kind of solid, but back then we were saying, well, it's solid, but the little pieces are so small you can't see them. And so there were a lot of people, even scientists, that thought that the universe was a physical thing, even maybe 50 years ago. But now scientists, I think, universally understand that there really isn't anything physical to these little things we call particles, atoms. And now they're saying that rather than the particles acting like little particles, they're acting more as a wave, just a wave of energy that doesn't have any physical. It's just a force. So it's kind of like, if you're watching Star Trek and they put up a force shield and the weapons can't get through the shield, which is an energy barrier. So it's not really anything like a wall, a physical wall, but just energy. Maybe you could make, as an example, you could make a wall with gravity. You couldn't go beyond a certain point. It'd be like a wall, and you'd fall back. But there's nothing there but a force. The force of gravity, we'll say. That could be your wall. So what we have is, it's kind of like that, because mass creates something that we call gravity. It pulls light. See, light in its purest form, you can't see it. There is no physicality. You put your hand right through it. And it doesn't have color or anything. And of course, science says that light travels at 186,000 miles per second. Well, they say they've done some research and they've figured this out. And I don't doubt that it's probably pretty close to that, and what they're saying is probably true. But suffice it to say, light travels very, very quickly. When you take and you bend the light, and we know this for a fact, you put light through a crystal and it begins to refract. Turns into all the colors of the rainbow. Now you see something that is visible. So they call that visible light. There's ultraviolet light, there's X-rays, there's gamma rays. There's different energy can be broken up into different wavelengths. Most of these higher wavelengths, they'll go right through physical things. Like a microwave, you put stuff in the microwave, turn it on, and the vibration, not particles, not anything physical, but something that has influence, as though it touches it, goes in and vibrates the food real fast, and it literally causes it to get hot and cook. Now, there's nothing in there but a higher wavelength or frequency. It's kind of disrupting the wavelength or the frequency of that potato that you put in the microwave. But it's really odd because there's nothing in the microwave except the potato. You push the button, you turn it for 5 minutes, and it starts getting hot. Well, scientists say that that is only a wavelength. Energy, it is vibration. The air that's in that compartment that you put the potato in the microwave, that little compartment in there, is just air in there. And a potato. When you turn on this energy, it's a wavelength that goes through that disrupts the air and the potato and the structure of the potato. There's nothing physical in there. So the wall then is a force. Your house, your roof, the trees, the earth, it's just a physical force. It's a wavelength. It's a vibration. We're all just various vibrations. One more quick way to understand this, and I'm sure you all know these things, but just to get it established at the beginning of this video so that we can go on to understand that there is no time and space. But this can be understood by just thinking about a movie. You watch a movie, of course nowadays they've got the technology to make holographic movies where it looks like it's all around you. So you are basically simulating reality. But it's not real. You just flip a switch and that whole room becomes a hologram. And here you are battling in some war in the jungle of Vietnam or something, and it's not real. You're not there. Or you're on your horse going out through the outback in Australia. You're in the Rocky Mountains on a donkey climbing a canyon. You're doing jiu-jitsu with Bruce Lee. There's no Bruce Lee there. It's just a hologram. That's what the universe is. So, the Bible then had said this a long, long time ago, and all the ancient works in the Bhagavad Gita and ancient Sumerian tablets and all of these ancient scriptures, they always taught us that there's something called spirit. Now, what people thought spirit was at different times in history, we don't know. We know that people don't always understand words very well. Even today, maybe 50 years ago, we were talking about science, and people yet didn't really understand. You know, our current way of understanding things always is changing. But we're getting closer and closer to understanding that we are spirit, just like the Bible had actually said a long, long time ago. There is no way that that ancient esoteric wisdom could be fake. Let's get that out of the way right off the bat. Is the Bible really true? After all the things that we've been discussing and how it's all parables and all stuff, some of you want to say, well, then it's not true. Friends, it is true. The esoteric wisdom has remained for thousands of years by divine fiat because it's important for us to understand these symbols, because within these symbols is locked the meaning of our existence. It is very, very important. There is no way some old guys with beards sitting in a little monastery thousands of years ago, Buddhist monks explaining that the physical universe is an illusion, that there is the observer and that which is observed. And that which is observed is only illusion. It's not physical. How could they have known that? How could the Bible agree with that but use a whole different format, but basically based on the same stories? But the prophets that wrote the Bible also understood that this physical world is temporary. And that which was important was the spirit. And Jesus tried to explain to Nicodemus, a Jew, who didn't understand these things because they were very carnal and they only understood this law and that you were guilty and the physical paradise that's coming on the earth and a king and a Messiah that's going to sit on the throne. They didn't know spiritual things. They couldn't understand that it was very, very typical. It was a shadow of spiritual realities. And so Jesus said, you're a Jew and you don't know these things, but I tell you things that I've seen. You must be born of spirit. What is born of flesh is flesh, and what is born of spirit is spirit. Jesus said the flesh is worth nothing at all. It is simply here today and gone tomorrow. The Apostle Peter said it's like grass that grows and the sun comes out and it withers away. It's just temporary. It's just an illusion. The only reality to the universe is that which is behind the physical, which is the mind. This is why John 1:1 says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the divine, the Theos. And the divine was the Word. And all things came into existence through the Word, and not one thing came into existence without this Word or the expression of the light, the Theos, which means the shining or the light, which is another spelling of the word Zeus. Zeus, translated, means the shining or the light. And so, Theos doesn't mean a bearded man in the sky. Now, in this parable, you may think that it's a bearded man and you're supposed to get on your knees and pray with audible words. But Jesus said, don't think that you can change the mind of spirit, of the light, with all of these words and long fringed garments and standing on the street corner beating your breast. None of that. It is a spiritual thing, and you've got to understand spiritually. For the Apostle Paul says it is spiritually discerned. So it was foolishness to the Greeks and a stumbling block to the Jews, because in those days, all of mankind, whether Jew or Greek, didn't understand these things. And this is why it was left to this cartoonish little parable, these little myths. Well, now today we're learning about something called quantum physics. And we understand that the physical universe is really only a projection of our own minds. So what that means then is we're going to physically and literally understand today, probably by the end of this video, if we don't have to do another one, we're going to understand who we are, what the universe is, and how we can interact with what we think is reality, and how we can change reality, because we are the one who is the thinker. And everything around you is only your thoughts. And all you have to do is change your thoughts. Now, it's a little bit harder than just saying that and saying, oh, okay, well, I'll just have different thoughts then. No, there's a nuance to all of this. But the only way we're going to understand it is to understand that these parables are describing reality. It's not an imaginary religious ritual or ceremony. It's not hokey pokey. It's not magic. It's true magic. The magic of the universe. It's miracles, but not the kind of miracles you think. When I make fire by striking a match, some aborigine or indigenous person who's never seen fire might say, oh, that's a miracle. Or it's magic. Yes, it is magic. It is a miracle. But all I did was strike a match. You put fuel on the fire and it'll go even more. And they would say, fuel, what's that? All right, well, we're gaining in wisdom and in knowledge, and now we're magicians, and now we're doing miracles. And I can tell you that with this information, you will do miracles. There's nothing hokey pokey, voila, abracadabra about this. It is simply knowing the truth. And that's what we've got to get to the place where we can understand the truth, friends, and stop being superstitious and believing in bearded men in the sky and incantations and all of these potions and mixing them up and thinking that's going to heal you. No, it's not that way. You've got to know the truth. So by the end of this video, we're going to know how to literally change our own world, our reality. Jesus said, whatever you ask, you will receive. Now, up till now, nobody's ever seemed to be able to do that. People go and pray, and ever so often they get answers to their prayers, and they're so amazed. And they go around telling everybody, oh my goodness, I prayed and God answered me. It was a miracle. It's because you're a novice. You think it's just so amazing. Life itself is just so amazing. Look at all these miracles. I wake up in the morning and, oh, look at the sun. It's going up in the air and it's warm. It's a miracle. I just saw a little puppy born. You watch a dog give birth to her little puppies and you say, that's a miracle. Life is a miracle. See, nothing can happen in this universe that isn't supposed to happen. Everything in the universe is bound by an immutable law. And it's governed from heaven. Heaven is not in the sky. The Gospel of Thomas says, if the kingdom of our Father was in heaven, the birds would precede you. See? The kingdom of our Father is in you, within you. It will not come with observableness. They will not say, lo here or lo there. But it comes as the sun rises in the east and shines all the way into the west. It's light for all to see. It will be enlightenment. It will be truth. And we're going to find that truth today. And we're going to do miracles, friends. You're going to learn how to bring everything into your life right where you need it and want it to be. Now let's start by explaining, number one, that everything you need is already with you. You don't bring things into manifestation because, as we already said, there is no physical. There's no physical. So that means that there is no time and there is no space. Now, there is a reality. The reality is you. You're the person who is creating reality. But reality is a concept. Now, the Bible says that God is one. And God is in us, and we are in God. And Jesus said, I and the Father are one, and ye are one with me, as I am one with the Father, that we might all be one. And whatever you ask, you shall receive. So the universe, then, is one. You can think of it this way. Draw a circle. That circle represents the universe. Everything from the center of the circle going out to infinity is the universe. And everything at the center going within that little dot in the middle of the circle, you can break it into fractions. You can go inward within for infinity. The entire universe, both the physical and the spiritual, is represented by the circle. And this is why the ancient ones used the circle to represent infinity and eternity. There is only one circle. There isn't two. It includes the whole universe. Outward and inward, the whole universe. So there's only one. Where do you fit in then, if there's only one, and that is God? Well, you're part of that one. Well, how are you going to fit into it if there's only one? Well, let's take and we'll cut that circle in half. Now we've got left and right. Those are concepts. Before you made that line down the middle, there wasn't any left or any right. But as soon as you decided to make a left, you made a right. As soon as you decide there's an inside of that circle, then you've decided there's an outside. It's all concepts. 2 and 2 is 4. As soon as you say, well, the circle is blue, now you've introduced the possibility of other colors. Well, it's hard. Well, then, there must be circles that are soft. So an endless number of variables exist within the whole. You cut it in half, you've got left and right, but left and right together still make the whole. And that one half, let's take the left part. The left part can be taken, and in our mind, we can conceive of moving it over here. Because you see, you really can't move it, because it's the whole universe. How do you move the universe if it's everywhere? You can't move everywhere to another where, because it's everywhere. But in our mind, we can conceive of another empty place over here where we can put half of the circle over here. Just for the sake of understanding what that half of the circle is. We're not really moving it, it's just a concept. We're using math. We're drawing it on a piece of paper. We're getting a visual. We're conceiving of what half of the circle is. We're not moving reality. We're not changing reality. We're just trying to understand what reality is. So we cut half of it in our mind, or we draw it, and we put it over here, and then we can say, oh, okay, this is half. Well, when I get it over here, I realize that that half is also a whole now. It becomes a whole. It's a complete what? It's a complete half. But the interesting thing about this half is it has also a left and a right, an up and a down, an in and an out. It's hard or it's soft or it's colorful or whatever. It has all the variables that the original whole had. So this is how you are made in the image and likeness of God, because you have everything God has. And actually, you're part of God. You are God. But God couldn't understand half until he cut himself in half and he lowered himself down to this point of view where he could say, okay, now I understand left because I've made a line and I've demarcated this from that. And now I'm beginning to understand myself because I've made space. See, space never existed. We're just trying to understand the universe, which doesn't have space. It doesn't have time. But we want to understand everything, or what we are. We are ourselves. We are the divine. So to understand and to know and to conceive, we have to imagine. You wouldn't be able to see yourself unless you got back and took a look at yourself. That's why we have mirrors. You don't know what you look like unless you look at yourself in a mirror. Or maybe you ask a friend, what do I look like? And they will tell you. You've got to get outside of yourself to even know what you look like. Sometimes we don't even know how we act. Maybe we're acting completely stupid, or we don't know how beautiful we are. And then somebody comes along and says, you're very beautiful. You say, oh, you're just saying that. No, really, you really are. Well, how would you know? You can't see yourself. But then, as people begin to say, oh, you're very beautiful, then you begin to believe it. So you see, you cannot know yourself unless you get outside of yourself. And this is why the universe is one. And yet, we are not the whole, but we are another whole, completely equipped to act as though we are the whole. So, space is only a concept. It's an imagination. We picture in our mind the circle and we make it in a space. Now, if we want another variable or another understanding of ourselves, we describe ourselves another way. Instead of space or physical, we describe the color or any other kind of variable. Now, what if we break this circle up into zillions of things and variables? Basically, we've got a picture of the universe. We've got trees and mountains and rivers and streams and little birds and deer and all these millions and zillions of different variables. And we want to understand all of it. Well, oh, sure, you could get back a zillion miles and look at the Earth, for instance, and see the whole Earth. But you couldn't make out one part of the Earth as opposed to a different part. If you got closer, maybe you could see a deer over here and a buffalo over there. And you say, okay, I see there's a deer and a buffalo, and I see the difference, but you couldn't see the difference without time. You look at the deer, but you're not looking at the buffalo. So you see the deer. That's one thought. That's one concept. There's no time. There's only now. You see the deer now. Well, in this now, you're looking and concentrating and focusing on the deer. You can't see the buffalo in the now. So you look over at the buffalo and you compartmentalize the differences by time or space. Your mind says, okay, the buffalo is in a different space. Your mind says, oh, I saw the buffalo after I saw the deer. Well, it's just a concept after. Time is only a concept. You could look at the entire universe and every bug and every blade of grass and every star, every person, every trait a person has, every color, every stream, every brook, every mountain, everything. You could look at them all in one moment now. But how would you compartmentalize it, put it in a file in your computer? Each a separate file. So this is that, this is the other. Because if you didn't do that, it would just be one whole. You wouldn't differentiate anything. It would just be one circle. You wouldn't have it cut in half or fourths or texture or color or any other thing. You'd just say it's a circle, it's reality, it's the whole thing together. You say, well, okay, I want to see the deer, but I also want to see the buffalo. All right. If I'm focusing only on deer, I can't focus also on buffalo. So this is why we compartmentalize things into a thing called space, time, variables. Everything is a concept. We are not the physical. We are the thinker who does the thinking. So I want to make this as concise and clear as possible. And so a lot of you are probably saying, well, this guy just goes on and on and on and get to the point. Well, friends, in order to understand this concept that people have been trying to understand for thousands of years, it's going to take some time. And I have to explain each point, one thing on top of another thing, so that you can gradually expand your mind into understanding other things. For instance, don't you want to know how to make miracles in your life? Don't you want to know how to be happy and make your entire life just exactly what you want? Well, there you go, Dave. This can't be true, because if it were true that you could just think something and it would just appear, then people would all be fine and everything would be just hunky-dory. We'd just think of this and we'd have that. Well, that's why you need to watch this video. And like I said, maybe even more than one video, because we want to go line upon line. We've got to understand this, because there's a lot of nuances. We've got to fully grasp why just saying, I want a new car, doesn't give us a new car. It's a lot more complicated than just saying, whatever you think you believe is what you're going to get. No, the answer is whatever you believe is what is going to be reality. How do you change your beliefs? Well, Jesus said you can do it. They were walking along and they saw this tree. Remember, trees are always have something to do with knowledge, right? There was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden. And some say that tree of knowledge was a fig tree, because the Bible does say that they put fig leaves to hide their shame after they got done eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So there's some say that it's a fig tree. Well, Jesus was going along and he saw a fig tree and it didn't have any fruit. He said, may there be no fruit upon you evermore. And then he says, if you say unto that fig tree, be uprooted and thrown into the sea, it will obey you. What he is saying is that this particular tree doesn't produce fruit the way you want it to. You're in charge. That tree is knowledge. You need to know. And if you're not learning and you don't know, then that tree is producing bad fruit. In other words, those are lies. And that's what we've got to do in this video, is get rid of all these lies. Jesus said you can do it. Hold, then there's roots in the ground and it's hard and it's firmly entrenched inside of you. That's why you can't do miracles, because you've got roots down inside you, into your core. You're a baby. You got a little pacifier, and you're still saying audible words to a bearded man in the sky, and you can't shake it. And you still have this insecurity deep within you. You still think and believe that you have nothing. Jesus told you, all you have to say is, I am. Oh, Jesus, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. And Jesus looked at her and he says, ye of little faith. All you got to do is believe. I am the resurrection. I am the life. Don't you understand, Martha? You only can have what you believe. You are everything. Everything you want comes from your own self. So you already are whatever you want. But if you believe that you are not what you want, that you have a lack, and that's what you believe, and you pray, oh God, I have a lack, please help me, I am suffering. Well, you've just ensured that you're not going to get what you asked for, because you didn't ask in faith, believing that you already have received. You didn't say, I am. You didn't say, my cup is well filled. In green pastures you make me lie down. In well-watered resting places you conduct my soul. You didn't say that. No, but you said, oh Lord, I have nothing, poor me. I am sick. I am sad. I have nothing. I'm nobody. Poor me. Oh, woe is me. So you say, oh, I get it, Dave. I just got to believe. Oh, okay, well, I'll do that now. Thanks a lot for the video. See ya. I'm going to go out and believe now. Whoa, friends, hang on now. All right, you ain't got your diploma yet. We've got to go through this a little bit more so we can get more understanding. Because you walk out that door, and guess what? You're going to find out that that tree has roots. Oh, I know we said we could move mountains. But that mountain is really big. Take a look at that mountain. Oh, man. That is like, it's impossible. You can't move a mountain. Lord, who can do that? Well, Jesus said, all things are possible for those who believe. You can say unto that mountain, be moved, and it will obey you. Jesus calmed the waves of the sea. He calmed the winds. Well, you've got to understand the meaning of these parables. We just talked about the tree representing your beliefs. You've got to change all your beliefs. That takes time. You can't just say, okay, I changed my beliefs. You are just a baby, and you need milk, and then you're going to get solid food, and then you're going to go out on your own. You're going to walk on the water like Peter. But you keep your eyes on Jesus, on the Christ, that inner spiritual man within you. You don't look at the flesh. You don't listen to the devil. He's a liar. He's always telling you that you're not worthy. Maybe you hurt somebody's feelings. You're not worthy because you're bad, or you did something wrong. You lied, You deserve all the suffering. You're ugly. You're lazy. Nobody likes you. You don't get along good with anybody. You're mean. Look at all the things you've done in your life. How are you going to get over that? You've got memories. You got memories of when you were a little kid and all the kids didn't like you and they were kicking at you and persecuting you and they abused you. They tried beating you up on the way home from school. You remember when your father used to beat you every day? Right? Or maybe your uncle or your aunt, or perhaps you lived on the street for a period of time not knowing even where you were going to get your next meal. Perhaps you've lived through something even worse than that. How are you going to get over it? Well, that's where the Bible comes in again, friends, because we have to learn to forgive. See, as soon as we can give, we will receive. These are principles. So learning these principles are going to help us. But we've got to fully and completely understand, because let's say that I told you that all you had to do is believe and this mountain's going to move. Well, for most of us, that doesn't seem to work. Why? Well, because perhaps we don't even comprehend how that could possibly be. Remember, if everything is in your own mind, you're the thinker, you're the one who's making everything by your own beliefs. Well, if you don't understand, then how are you going to believe? So, to some extent, getting to the place that we can believe that our world is great and we can just make our world the way we want to, getting to that point may actually mean learning and understanding science to a degree. Because if you think that that's physical, see, that's another lie that you've got to get out of your head. It's not a matter of I've got to learn or go to school, right? It's just that you were in this world and they taught you that that physical door was a barrier and you couldn't get through it. From the time you were little, you were told you can't walk on water. You stupid little kid. You got to go to school. You don't know nothing. We're going to teach you our propaganda. How are you going to get rid of all that propaganda in just a minute? You still think that you got to have a job in order to eat. You still think that you got to be worthy to breathe and have a life. You still think that God's going to punish you for your sins. Or that society has the right to punish you for things that they don't like. Or somehow that they can say that you're bad or you deserve to go to prison, but they deserve to walk around and have these great luxury cars and live in these big uptown condos. They get to go to Macy's and buy all of this fashion, right? Real jewelry made out of gold and silver. They got to have a safe deposit box for their jewelry, right? They deserve it. They got a pedigree. You're nothing. You were born in the bush, and now they want you to come out of the bush and come into the town and go and get a job like a good little boy and build their fancy stuff. You know, you do your job and they'll give you a little bit of money so you can go out and have some food, but you're not going to get, health care. You're not going to get a living wage. You're still going to live in a little bitty apartment. You're going to have to work 3 jobs. And you've got all this bearing down on you, and you think that you're going to walk out here tomorrow and say, you know what, I believe now. I understand God. And I know who I am. No, this is going to take a little bit of work, friends. So bear with me. We're going to figure this out. And it's like with anything else. You've got to see results. You know, you could plant a seed. The sun will come out and it'll rain and stuff. And that seed will grow all by itself. You don't even have to go out there and do anything. Just plant it in the ground. It grows itself. But if you don't know that you have seeds and you can put them in the ground, did you know that the Bible says that if you want something, you got to have faith? And then the parable says you got to have faith the size of a seed. Now, what does that mean, the size of a seed? You got people running around saying, oh, well, it's got to be real small, just a little small thing. No, it's not talking about a small thing. It's talking about something that grows naturally without your having to think about it. But you got to plant it. That's all you got to do. You got to have a desire. You got to have a word. You got to have a concept. Any concept that you have is a seed. So, here's the problem. You say, oh, I've got a concept. I want to be prosperous, and I want to be happy, and I want to have this car. There's my seed. Okay, well, 5 seconds later, oh, I only get $7 an hour, and I'm barely paying my rent. How am I going to afford a car? Ha ha, foolish man. You're not going to have a car. Don't be so stupid. There's no mind over matter. That's all ridiculous. What are you doing? Get back to work, you little fool. You little slave. Get back to work. You stop your daydreaming, you little traitor. Get back to work. And you say, no, I'm not going to go back to work. So you go and you walk down a road and you say, I'm going to pray to God. And you say, oh, God. Oh, Lord, I need this car. Oh, help me have a car. I don't have a car. See, but you don't know that what you're doing is the opposite of what you should be doing. What you've just done is you've gone out there and you've dug up your seed and you've thrown it out onto the bare soil and it gets scorched by the sun and it won't grow. Because you see, you kept digging it up to see if it was there. Right? You didn't just leave it alone. You didn't just believe it. That's it. Don't listen to anything else. If you doubt, you go back and dig that seed up, it's not going to grow. This thing is actually easy. You just plant it and it does all the work for you. But if you get to thinking that somehow or another, by thinking about that seed growing, or, somehow or another you're going to tell the seed, now come on, do what I say. Ooh, you strain your brain and maybe you run around the block 5 times or, you think, maybe I need to have a ceremony, right? Sacrifice a few cows and some sheep. Maybe if I go to church or something. Nah, none of that. That seed's going to grow, period, as long as you understand that seeds grow by themselves. It is your concept that will become reality. You must allow your concept to flourish and stop worrying with your carnal mind, which is that part of you that is destroying the whole thing. Stop worrying. Do not second guess any of it. Don't use your carnal mind. Don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. Cast your net on the other side of the boat, because that is where your superconscious mind will work, and 153 fish shall be gathered in, and it will be a bounty. So this is where knowledge comes in. Okay, we've already learned a few things, but they're just parabolic, and they're helpful. But we need to know some real serious math here in order to do the miracles that we're going to do. That's why it's very important that we understand that there is no time and space. You've got to get your mind fully aware that everything that's going on around you is coming from within you and not from without. If you still believe that that door is a barrier, then you're not going to get through that door unless you got the key. Because you believe that's the only way to get through that door. What if you're the one who put the door there in the first place? And you're sitting around going, oh, who put this door there? Why are they doing this to me? Oh, I need to get outside. There's a door. You're the only person in this universe. You are God. You made a door because why? Because you asked for the door. And now you're saying, oh, why is there a door? What do you mean, Dave? Well, let's say that you're living on the street and you don't have a house, you don't have a girlfriend, you don't have any money, you're an emotional wreck, you're depressed, you're just like down on your luck, you got a bottle of whiskey, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, Lord, why me? I've prayed and I've done everything I can. I tried to get a job, I got fired, or they wouldn't hire me, or all that, whatever. Here you are sitting in your pile of ashes, scraping your sores. You know, you've lost everything, like Job. And you ask, God, why? Right? I thought that we were supposed to be able to just pray and get whatever we want. And then you hear a voice coming down from heaven saying, my son, don't you see? I never lie. I told you the truth. Whatever you ask, you will receive. Well, how come I'm in all this mess then, Lord? Because that's what you asked for. Well, I don't remember asking for that, Lord. Oh, yes. Remember when you said, I want to learn? Yeah. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to learn. That's your problem, son. You wanted to learn. The only way you can learn is to go through all these things. See, if you'd have just said, I want to be God, I want to have everything, I would have given it to you. You would have had all of that. But you didn't want that. You didn't want to be me. You wanted to go down there and see what a buffalo looked like. So here you are, you know, running around barefoot with a Tootsie skirt. You got a bow and an arrow, and you're trying to hunt down this deer because you wanted to know what a deer was. Now you're telling me you don't want to know what a deer is? And you don't want to know what a splinter in the foot is? And you don't want to know what a chase and the adrenaline is? And you don't want to know what it's like to live and to die and to breathe and to suffer and to heal and to be courageous? You don't want to learn courage? You don't want to learn valor? You don't want to overcome? You just want to sit around and have everything handed to you. Well, if that's what you wanted, you should have just asked. But you didn't ask for that. You told me that you wanted to come down here and learn. Oh, well, I changed my mind, Lord. There's only one way you can get out of this. That you literally grow now and you say, oh, I get it. I understand. I don't need to learn anymore. As soon as you receive the truth and you accept reality that there is no need for suffering, when you accept that and stop, getting amazed every time you see something amazing, you have to make up your mind. Do you want to live in an amazing world? Do you want to live in a world where you just got your mouth open and you're just in awe of everything and you're learning all this stuff? Do you want to live in a world where all you get to learn is beautiful things? Well, guess what? You cannot know sweet unless you've tasted the bitter. So you see, you're in a catch-22. You're allowing yourself to suffer, but not beyond what you're able to bear. You know just how much you can suffer. And at any time along the way that you finally wake up, see, Christ is in the boat, and the boat is tossing to and fro, and the waves are coming in, and you're about to drown. But all you got to do is wake up the Christ that's laying down in the boat sleeping, which is in you. You're the boat. And the waves of the sea are your emotions and your fears. And the wind is your thoughts. Calm down your thoughts. You have the authority to tell your thoughts to stop. I get it. I learned it now. Oh, yeah, this can be pretty interesting out here in the ocean about to drown. That was interesting. I love the adrenaline rush. That was great. Okay, but now I'm going to calm down. I'm going to accept reality and truth. And I'm going to learn what I came here to learn, which is that if I give, I shall receive. I've already tasted the bitter. I don't need to sit around gluttoning myself on bitter, wallowing in my pain. We came here to learn, came into this world, and then we got trapped. What we got to do is do like Jesus did. He rode that mule into the city of Jerusalem. He put a bit in its mouth and he rode it. He had victory. You can get the victory, but you got to realize that you're in charge. You got to figure out what you want, because whatever you ask for, that's what you will receive. So say, oh, I want that red car. Then tomorrow you want a green car. Then the next day you want a blue car. But you don't know what you want. You wanted that house, this beautiful house, and oh, that's all you ever wanted. Oh, Lord, let me have that house. And you got that house. He's like, oh, this is like a prison. I don't like this house. I don't like this town. I don't like what I'm doing here. And so you just sold it. You got to make up your mind. What do you want? A house? Is that what you want? A house and a car? Well, if that's all you want, my goodness, that's easy. Go get a job and, live your whole life and go to get some career and slave for the car and the house. You got it. No, what you want is something different. You don't want a house and a car. What you want is peace. What you want is happiness. And it doesn't come in a car or in a house. Happiness comes from within, knowing that I am life. That anything I ask, I shall receive. Once you grasp that and you start practicing it, you plant that seed, it will grow. Faith like a seed. That's all you need. Faith the size of a little seed. You plant it. Whatever you want. You make a concept. You plant it. It will come. Anyway, I'm looking down and I think I'm probably about an hour into this now. And I still didn't even get into really what I wanted to talk about when it comes to time. So basically what we've done is we've spent an hour just kind of, I think, generally proving that there is no time and space. And that's the reason that you can't get an answer to your prayers, and you don't know who you are, and you don't know where you're going. And I hope that wets your whistle, and you stay tuned for the second one in the series, because we've got to get deeper into time and space, because when we can understand the concept of time and space and how events go from one thing to another, each thing predicated on the other. You can't go from 1 to 6. You got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each reality is predicated on another thought prior to that reality. And we're going to explain that's how time works. When you compartmentalize your existence, you compartmentalize it in time and space. We conceive things in one moment, in the now. But to understand all of it, so we can experience all of it, it comes in time and in space. And we're going to talk about that in the next video. Once we learn what time and space is completely, and we understand what reality is, and that we're the one who makes the reality, and we understand how we make reality. In order to get something to occur in the future, something has to be done. For instance, you want the coffee to boil, you got to put it on the fire. It is a foregone conclusion you're going to get yourself some hot coffee. So the same thing goes with thoughts. There is no time and space. You have to have a concept of what you want, what your reality is. That reality that's in your mind is just going to be an idea, a concept. It's going to unfold itself and decompartmentalize itself from all the parts of that idea, one at a time. It's going to manifest. So you don't have to say, I want this, and I want that, and then I want this, and then I want that. No, you just have one concept, one dream. You can sit and imagine that dream, and you've got all the things in your dream, it's all there. And then you can just imagine all those things as one thing. That, your dream, your life, that's you. And you determine within yourself, that's what you want. And from your innermost being, living waters will bubble up unto eternal life. Because your concept, the whole story, your whole dream is already formed within yourself. You hold that concept, and then all of a sudden in reality it begins to manifest one part of the dream at a time, building layer by layer. Because in your mind there is no time and space. You just have a thought. You go deep within yourself in the center where there is no time and space. You hold that concept. And then it manifests in time so that you can see it. For instance, you may want children and a wife and a home. Well, probably if you hold that thought in your mind, you'll get the wife and then the children, hopefully. But they will happen in time. We have to have patience. The farmer plants the seed and then he has patience as the seed grows. But it grows by itself, without effort. So anyway, we're going to get more into that in the next video, friends. Before I go, friends, I just want to point out that, as I've been saying, YouTube has completely demonetized my channel since June 4th. So I literally depend upon your support for this channel. No matter what, friends, I'm going to continue to do these videos, whether there's monetization or not. But your support is really needed and very much appreciated. Go to my website at davidvos.com. Anyway, friends, I'm going to go ahead and go. Stay tuned for number 2. This is David Vos. See you again tomorrow.